Hi again, and welcome to Boom and Gloom, the podcast where I talk about the boom, the good, and the gloom, the bad, of Columbus Blue Jackets hockey. I'm your host, Anthony, and I go by Whaler Jacket in the world of social media, and I am Ohio's longest-suffering NHL hockey fan. And if you're tuning in for the first time, here's why. I was a Whaler fan growing up, a Blue Jacket fan now, so I have seen my favorite team get past the first round of the playoffs a grand total of one time. The Jackets did it in 2019. I'm 48 years old, a diehard hockey fan, and I love my favorite team. So yeah, I don't think any hockey fan in the state of Ohio can say they have suffered longer than me. But things are looking up, aren't they? Since my last episode, the Jackets are still hovering around the 500 mark, and there have only been a handful of games that I would say were not enjoyable to watch. They have been an entertaining team, to say the least. And it has been a treat to watch some of the younger players develop. And we'll talk about that a bit more in this episode. The last 3 games have not gone the way we had hoped. 3-game homestand. I figured, we come out of it with at least 2 wins after a not-so-kind road trip. Nope. We got 0 wins. 2 points, with the 2 overtime losses, so the equivalent of 1 win. But in my mind, we got 3 losses. Not optimal at all. A disappointing homestand. Still, okay, trying to be the optimist here. It is mid-December, and we have not completely fallen out of the playoff picture just yet. But visiting Carolina tonight with the former Whalers, and the potential of it being a 4th consecutive loss for this team. Has the slide out of contention started? Is this the start of it? Hopefully not, but we'll see. They have surprised me before. I'm hoping they'll surprise me tonight. I am not expecting a win tonight, so I'm hoping they surprise me. All right, so let's get into it. All right, first, I want to talk about the goaltending situation. Jet Greaves gets the call-up and starts the last 2 games. I have so many questions about this. Not a lot of answers. So my questions. Well, first of all, why? Okay, is it just to give him some NHL experience? And if so, why now? We're not exactly playoff contenders at the moment. But we aren't obviously pretenders either. So the Jackets are in it right now. A win streak, and we are really in it. So surely Don Waddell and the coaching staff they understand this. So are they saying that Elvis and Tarasov may not give the team the best chance to win? In which case, are they saying they want to see if Jet is ready to take over and lead them on a quest to make the playoffs? And if so, what are they going to do with one or both of those other goaltenders? Are they going to send down Tarasov, exposing him to waivers, and allow some other team to just swoop in and take him for free? And would anyone do that? Would anyone actually claim him if they did? Would any team be interested in him? And is this saying the Jackets are giving up on him or giving up on this current tandem, Elvis and Tarasov? Is this the first step to establishing a new tandem? Like I said, so many questions, and I don't have the answers. I've been saying this for a long time, that unless Elvis Merzlikins has a monster season this year. This would be his last with the Jackets. Especially with all the cap space the Jackets have, they can potentially swing a trade where they retain a portion of his salary. And I forget what Elvis is making. Is it 5.5 million? 5.5 million per season maybe? I don't remember. But it's got to be somewhere around there, and that means the ratio of salary to performance is not a good one. But if the Jackets eat, a couple million for the last 2 seasons of his contract, does that make his contract tradable? Will other teams be interested in something like that? I don't know. But I just asked a ton of questions right there, and now I'm going to give you not really my prediction, but what I would do if I was Don Waddell. Okay, so this is not what I think is going to happen. I'm not saying this is what is going to happen. This is what I would do. Okay, if I was Don Waddell, I would send Tarasov down, and I would keep Jet with the big club. Now, if someone claims Tarasov, so be it. You work around it. You make another move to acquire a stopgap option for the Cleveland Monsters, okay? And you cut your losses, okay? You cut your losses with Tarasov. And I know that means that they would be kind of giving up on him, but from what I have seen, he has not developed the way the Jackets had hoped he would. So maybe other teams see that too and wouldn't touch him. And maybe he makes it to Cleveland, and maybe he one day does develop into that goaltender that the Jackets hoped he would be. But if not, if he is no longer part of the team's long-term plans, then they can seek a trade, or maybe he'd want to return to his home country. Who knows? And as for Jet Greaves, you now have the opportunity, or he now has the opportunity, to start big games with the big club. And if he's ready for the job, well, then he has a chance to lead them to the playoffs. If not, or if the team is not ready to go on a playoff run, well, then he still gains valuable experience, by playing this season. So I've been saying this for a while now. I didn't expect the Jackets to make the playoffs this season. This was a development year, okay? Now, I completely get that they have played well enough for us fans to start getting hope. Like, oh, well, maybe they will make the playoffs this year. But I think we have to be realistic. So if that is true, if the Jackets do not make the playoffs this season, we consider it a development year. Now, next season, that's when I expected them to start challenging for a playoff spot. So with that in mind, Jet Greaves would get to use this season as a growing, learning opportunity, a growing, learning year. Then, next season, with a year under his belt at the NHL level, then he gets the opportunity to lead an upstart playoff-bound team. To me, that makes a lot of sense. If you expect to go on a playoff run next season, wouldn't you like the fact that your number one goaltender has had a season of NHL experience under his belt? I think that's a logical plan. And if you happen to catch lightning in a bottle this season, so be it. Awesome. Fantastic. So this is a win-win situation, in my opinion, of course. Now, as for Elvis Merzlikins, what would this mean for him? If Jet is here to stay this season, and I'm not sure if he is right now, maybe it lights a fire under him. Maybe it motivates him to be a better goaltender. Because right now, I don't think he feels like Tarasov is nipping at his heels. I think he knows that out of the two, he is the better option in goal right now. But is he a better option than Jet Greaves? So maybe this pushes Elvis to be better. Maybe it makes him a better goaltender. And notice I said maybe, okay? Because to be honest, my opinion is that Elvis is not destined to remain with this team for much longer. I think the second Don Waddell has an opportunity to move him, he moves him. But you never know, right? I mean, he could turn things around with, Jet Greaves pushing him. But that's, again, my opinion on the situation. You send down Tarasov, you risk the waivers, and you leave Jet up with the big club. Finish the season with him and Elvis as your goaltender tandem. If Jet continues to play well. If he doesn't, fine, send him back down. Regardless, the Jackets are going to be exploring a different option for next season. My prediction, next year, neither Tarasov nor Elvis will be with the organization anymore. It will either be Jet as the starter with a new backup, or a new starter with Jet as the backup. Or, some kind of equal tandem. But the second goaltender will be someone new. And again, guys, that's just my opinion on this. I've watched the last two games with Jet Greaves in goal, and despite the 2 overtime losses, I think he's played really well. He's made some saves where I thought, while watching, I thought to myself, if Elvis or Tarasov was in, that goes in the goal. The puck goes in the net. They don't make that save. So I don't know. No, I'm not a professional coach. I'm not a professional talent analyst. But that's what it seemed like to me. That Elvis and Tarasov in those same situations, in those games, would not have made those big saves. So Jet seems like the better option right now for the Jackets to win games, even though they haven't. All right. This is my first episode that I have done since David Jiricek was traded. If you listen to my previous episodes, my opinion was firmly that the Jackets should not be giving up on him just yet. I likened him to Chris Pronger when he was with the Hartford Whalers, trading him for that jackass Brendan Shanahan. Heck of a player, Brendan Shanahan, but he just did not want to be in Hartford and forced his way out. So that's what I thought about when it came to Jiricek. Okay, Pronger went on to be a superstar because the Whalers gave up on him too early. So my feeling is that Jiricek will eventually become a superstar. I remember how endeared he became to fans when he kissed the Blue Jackets logo on his jersey before putting it on for the first time at the draft. So when he got traded, I thought, man, what a waste. How can we trade this guy? But I have to say that I have backed down on that opinion a lot. I've read a lot of articles and comments about the situation, and the one that stood out to me the most was this. Jiricek was unable to crack the lineup for 3 different coaching staffs, I believe. So you had Larson, Vincent, and now Evison. So that's 2 different front offices as well. It wasn't like just one group thought he was not developing properly. It was several. And they're the professionals. They know infinitely more than I do. If two different administrations thought the same way, I may be inclined to believe them. I still think he may be that he may turn into a superstar someday. Okay, I really do. There is that chance. But I am now much more content with the fact that he is no longer with the Blue Jackets, that the Blue Jackets chose to move on from him. Ultimately, the 12th pick in the draft, Juracek's draft, is going to turn out to be the better pick with Denton Matejchuk. That softens the blow of striking out with the 6th pick. Now, speaking of the Blue Jackets defense, do we still think Provorov is going to be moved by the trade deadline? He said in a recent interview that he was interested in staying with the Jackets. He seemed to really like it here and wants to see the rebuild through. I just don't think it's going to happen. The last few games, he's made some glaring errors, at least to me. Last night versus Anaheim, his pinch, or whatever you want to call it, in overtime, that cost the Jackets the game. I mean, he came into the offensive zone, and in my opinion, he should not have. He jumped in too early. Marchenko did not have possession of that puck. I think Provorov assumed he did and started busting in. Cost the Jackets the game. Now, in my mind, he doesn't make as many mistakes as Damon Severson, but he makes plenty. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of positives to his game as well. Enough that I believe he would be coveted by other teams. Therefore, I think Don Waddell wants the draft assets that Provorov would bring in a trade. I see him thinking the defense next year, okay? The defense for the Jackets next year looking like this. Werenski, Severson, Matejchuk, Christensen, Goodbranson, possibly Fabro, and a free agent acquisition. Jordan Harris has not wowed me, but he's been decent. You know, he could stick around as the 7th defenseman maybe. And I'm not sure what the Fabro situation is. I'm not sure if he sticks around with the team. But they seem to really like him, you know, using him on the top pair with Zach Werenski. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens as the trade deadline approaches, and we'll see what goes on with Provorov. But let's talk about Zach for a minute. Holy cow. He has really become a superstar this season. Hasn't he? I mean, he's always been a high-caliber defenseman. But this season, I think he has really put himself in the elite category. Excuse me. The true upper echelon of defensemen in the league. As of last night, I don't know if it's changed. I haven't checked the stats, but as of last night, he was leading the NHL in goals by a defenseman and leading the Blue Jackets in points and leading in general, like as a team leader with Boone Jenner still out. He is, in my opinion, making a legitimate case for Norris Trophy contender right now. And I'm not saying he's going to win, all right? And I'm not saying he would win if the award was given tomorrow. But I think he would at least have to be in the discussion. So I'm happy for him, and I hope he continues to stay healthy. If I'm not mistaken, he has 2 surgically repaired shoulders. Or maybe one that has been repaired twice. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I had a friend ask me an interesting question the other day. When Boone comes back, who comes out of the lineup? I saw footage the other day of Boone skating in full gear. He is a tough player, and I knew that he would not miss the entire season. I think talks of him coming back prior to the outdoor game, March 1st, I think that was very reasonable. And I still think that that's going to happen. So he's coming back. When he does, someone substantial is going to have to come out of the lineup. So who's that going to be? For a while, we had James Van Riemsdyk and Kevin Labanc. They seem to be rotating in and out of the lineup. But lately, they have seemed to they've established themselves more as like mainstays, like JVR put on the top line. So maybe I'm wrong, but players who have been playing top line minutes, they usually don't get pulled out of the lineup. So I'm not sure here. So let's look at the 14 forwards who, if healthy, would be able to qualify for the lineup when Boone Jenner returns. So I have these 14 names. Boone Jenner, Sean Monahan, Kent Johnson, James Van Riemsdyk, Adam Fantilli, Cole Sillinger, Yegor Chinakhov, Dmitry Voronkov, Kirill Marchenko, Kevin Labanc, Matthew Olivier, Justin Danforth, Sean Corrali, and Zach Aston Reese. So that's 14 names right there. And they're all pretty solid players and all who have, I don't know, dare I say, earned a right to be in the lineup. So who comes out? Of those 14, 2 would have to be removed from the lineup. I'm going to answer this 2 ways. And what I'm about to say may ruffle some feathers. If Boone Jenner came back today and we had to take someone out of the lineup, I would pick Adam Fantilli. And before you yell at me, let me explain. I wouldn't want him out for more than a game or 2. But I don't think it would hurt for him to sit in the press box for a game or 2. Fantilli, to me, lately, has looked fairly average. He has just seemed like an average NHL player. He's pretty prone to making errant passes and coughing up the puck, making a move that perhaps he shouldn't have. He hasn't figured it out yet. But I am 100% confident he will. He will figure it out. I just think it's going to be very Kent Johnson-esque, where he'll suddenly pop. But right now, as we speak, he's just an average NHL player. If Evason had to pull someone out of the lineup today, I would say he might consider Fantilli. Like I said, just for a game or 2. It would not be an extended absence from the lineup. I would want him back to continue getting minutes and experience. But that's if Boone came back today. And then after that game or 2, Fantilli would have to be reinserted into the lineup and somebody else would have to come out. But let me answer this another way. Let's say Boone comes back March 1st. Then who comes out of the lineup? At that point, my picks would probably be Labanc and, hear me out, Sean Corrali. I love Sean, and I appreciate his veteran his veteran presence, but I think his role can be filled by someone else if a roster spot was needed. Do I think this will happen? No. No, I do not. Well, I think we are going to see some roster moves as we approach the trade deadline, which is fairly close to March 1st. So I think there's a good chance we see a trade or two that makes room for Boone, or even some players who are currently with Cleveland right now. I would love to see what Brindley could do with Fantilli. I would love to see what Del Bel Blues and Malatesta have in them. That's where I think we're headed. Okay, but there's so many variables here, okay? A lot depends on where the Jackets are in the standings. If they are dialed into a possible playoff berth, I don't know. I don't know if Waddell keeps things as they are, or if he even adds to the roster by the deadline. I just don't know. There's so much to think about, and you know what? It's so much fun. All right, this has been such an enjoyable season so far. Just such a breath of fresh air after the last few seasons. And it's just a lot of fun to consider what could possibly happen between now and the trade deadline. There's just so many possibilities. I did want to point out something when I mentioned who I thought might come out of the lineup. At the start of this season, the first few weeks maybe, if you had asked me that question, I would have said the person who would come out of the lineup would be Zach Aston Reese. When the Jackets acquired him, I was very underwhelmed. I was like, oh, here we go. Just another throw-in player, just another body, I guess, body to take a spot in the lineup. But you know what? He has really grown on me. I have really liked his game. Not flashy at all, just a hard-working, smart player who can play third or fourth line minutes, provide some physicality, but also, contribute to the offense at times. So I really like the guy. I never saw that coming. I surprised myself when I realized he was somebody I would want to keep in the lineup. But hey, you know what? He has earned it. All right, last thought. Kent Johnson. I've talked about him a bunch on the last couple of podcast episodes, so you guys know that I've become a really big fan of him. He is currently 5th on the team in points. And actually, when I started typing these notes, I did this. I typed it before the Anaheim game, so I think this is still correct. No, this will not be. There'll be a couple of wrong numbers here, but again, I typed up these notes before the Anaheim game, so bear with me. But before the Anaheim game, he was 5th on the team in points and had only played in about half the games as the other players played, who were above him in the stats. So Werenski, Marchenko, and Monahan, before last night, had played 29 games. And Sillinger, who is 1 point ahead of KJ, has played in 28 games. That's insane. And awesome. He has that many points, 5th on the team in scoring, in half the amount of games. But it makes you wonder, where would he be if he hadn't been injured? I don't think it's a stretch to say that he may be leading the team right now in points. And I also don't think it's a stretch to say that the Jackets may have 1 or 2 more wins if he had not been injured. I mean, clearly he has become an offensive threat. So a couple of games, a couple of those games that the Jackets lost by a close score, like lost by 1 goal or just a close game, maybe they win those with an extra Kent Johnson goal or assist. All I know is that I'm pumped. I'm pumped to see where KJ's career goes from here. We have him, I think, through next season at a super cheap price. I hope the trajectory continues. One more thing. The Blue Jackets are probably going to get new jerseys, new uniforms soon. Why do I say this? Well, because I am most likely getting 2 for Christmas. I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming I'm getting a home one and an alternate one. And it would just be my luck for me to finally bite the bullet and get jerseys, and then for the Jackets to change them. I currently only have 2 Blue Jackets jerseys. I have an original logo jersey, and then I have the first ever alternate logo jersey. You know, the one with the black shoulders and the black arms. You know, the one where that's the one where they first switched to the current logo. The first jersey to feature our current logo. Those are the only 2 Jackets jerseys I have. So I'm finally getting new ones. So just you watch. Just you watch. Another season or 2, and you'll see new jerseys. And it'll all be because of me. Just the way my luck works. And still no word, by the way, on the Winter Classic jerseys. No, eagerly awaiting them. Hoping that that jersey is not a letdown. You know, such a big game. The designers have to get this right for marketing. They have to get it right. They should want everyone to want to purchase that jersey. So hopefully they will announce something soon, or we'll get at least treated to a leak. We'll see. That would give us a little bit to chew on until the actual release. Okay, that's all for now. Gonna watch the Carolina game tonight. Like I said earlier, expecting a loss, hoping to be surprised. But Jackets have surprised before. Took down the Jets recently, and that was a surprise. So they have surprises in them. Let's hope one comes out tonight. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to connect with me, as always, you can find me on Blue Sky or Instagram as Whaler Jacket. Would love to hear from you. Comments, questions, suggestions, requests to come on the show and be a guest, all that good stuff. Here, happy to help. Just remember, not an expert at all. I'm just another fan, and I just like to talk hockey. And where I currently sit in Southwest Ohio, not a lot of hockey talk out here. So I use this podcast as my way to talk. So feel free to come on sometime and talk with me. Until then, take care, everyone. Go Jackets.